Hello, everyone. My name is Marisol Espinoza, and welcome to my session on learning the secrets of retaining a diverse workforce. Thank you. Before we get started, here's Salesforce's forward-looking statement. Please make any purchasing decisions based upon the features and products that are currently available in the marketplace. If you'd like to take a closer look at this forward-looking statement, feel free to check it out at salesforce.com. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. First off, I'd like to share a little bit about my background and where I come from. From there, we'll jump into 3 specific tips that I have for leaders on inclusive practices, and 3 top tips for employees from any diverse background. After that, I will share what the business value is of putting these practices to work. And after that, I will send you all off with specific calls to action. So let's get started with who I am. On the surface, I like to identify myself as a heterosexual, cisgendered Latinx woman. Underneath the surface, my family is a huge part of my identity. Now, by looking at this picture, you can tell that my background may be a little non-traditional, with my mom being a single parent. Well, that's not the only non-traditional part about me. I'm also a first-generation American and the first in my family to attend college. But thank you. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to complete college just yet, but here's how I got to Salesforce. In 2013, I parted ways with college due to barriers financially. But a year later, I was introduced to a workforce development program known as Year Up. Year Up helped me gain the skills that I needed to work in the tech industry, as well as I developed a passion for project management. A year later, I kickstarted my career at Salesforce. And fast forward to 3 years later, I am now a project manager by day and a business student by night. So let's take a closer look at what my journey has been like in my career. I first started off as an intern on the internal documentation team, where I got to manage documentation for our internal engineers. From there, I found a contract as a project coordinator on the UX team. In that role, I got to manage processes for managers while also coordinating events and programs. And yes, that is no typo up there. I did get to manage a band for a day. After that role, I moved over to another contract position on the Trailhead team as a project manager. In this role, I got to manage releases as well as document our processes for our releases. And from there, it was in that role that I was converted from a contractor to a full-time employee of Salesforce. Thank you. Now, a year later, I was promoted to a senior project manager, where I still get to manage Trailhead's releases, but I'm also getting to work on strategic projects, as well as training our writers and partners on all of our new tools. Now, the next tips that I'm about to share with you are the reasons why I was able to be so successful in my career and move on up. It is these exact practices that helped me become successful and stay committed to my company for more than 3 years. Number 1, as a leader, be a mentor. This is Andrea Perez. Andrea has a similar background as me, where she started off as an intern. But unfortunately, after her internship, she was not offered a position. But it's not in Andrea's nature to give up. Andrea attended a Salesforce community event where she got to meet a leader and a mentor that is fantastic. Some of you may know her as Chris Duarte, everyone. Chris Duarte spent a few hours a week working with Andrea to build her resume and mentor her and seek another job. It was shortly after, because of this, that Andrea was able to find a position at Salesforce to help support Dreamforce. And it was in this role that Andrea was able to showcase all of her talents. A few months after Andrea's contract had ended, she got called back to come back and work on this team because of all of her talent. This was all achieved with just a little help from Chris Duarte in mentoring her and supporting her. Number 2, practice inclusive meetings. Now, when I first started at Salesforce, it was very difficult for me to feel comfortable enough to be able to speak up in meetings. Surprisingly enough, I know you see me up here today, but it was uncomfortable for me to speak in meetings. But my managers always made it a point for me to be heard and recognized. You can also do this as well in your next meetings. Next time you hear someone who hasn't had a chance to speak, ask them questions like, how would you approach this problem? Or what are your thoughts? Number 3, support career development and promotions. I would not have been able to be so successful in my career if it wasn't for my leadership supporting me to reach next levels in my career. Now, I know a lot of you may still be on your way to being leaders, but you could still help out in the current roles that you are in. And this is how. Number 1, seek a mentor. This is Ricardo Perez, everyone. And Ricardo has made it a point to seek long-term mentorship as well as short-term mentorship. Short-term mentorships meaning just meeting with people for one-time 30-minute chats on mentorship. Now, Ricardo is focused on next steps after his current contract. Hint, hint, everyone, Ricardo over there. Now, Ricardo used Chatter and put it to work to help him in his next steps. He used Chatter by posting and explaining a little bit about himself, his career so far, and next steps that he's interested in. Because of this, Ricardo was able to reach his network and his network's network, and he received a total of 20+ responses of people interested in mentoring him. Number 2, practice authentic conversations. This is very important. It is important to be able to come to work and be able to be bold and brave and share your equality narrative. I promise you, if you feel like empowered to share your story, you will empower the next person to share their story. Who knows? Maybe one of you can come up here next and share your equality narratives. Now, it is also important to not only share your equality narratives, but come from a space of forgiveness and openness. We want to promote an environment that's safe for people to be able to make mistakes and forgive them afterwards. Let's face it, we're all human and we're all going to make mistakes. It's just important that we learn from these mistakes and move forward. Number 3, support others and lift as you climb. I have helped lift others by supporting them in their careers, speaking on career panels, and speaking to underrepresented groups to support them in their careers. That's right, everyone. The gym isn't the only place you should be lifting. Now, in one of the career panels that I spoke at, I met a woman by the name of Marina Sanchez. Marina Sanchez and I kept in close contact ever since. When I was offered a position to be promoted from a contractor to a full-time Salesforce employee, Marina happened to be also looking for a job. Knowing Marina's talent, I let my manager know, and my manager brought her onto our team. Now, it's no surprise that Marina and I became a powerful duo of two Latinx women. Now, what is the value of putting these practices to use? Well, number one, if you look at the first sign, it shows that there's still a considerable amount of work to be done. Number two is that people are proud to work for companies that promote inclusion. This is how you can retain talent on your team. Number three, people who feel empowered to be their authentic selves at work are empowered to do a better job in their careers, and also it brings direct productivity to your team. So as you can see, practicing inclusion is the best way to retain the next generation of talent. So let's recap. Inclusive leaders can be mentors, practice inclusive meetings, and support career development. And employees can seek a mentor, practice authentic conversations, and lift as they climb. But the learning doesn't stop here. Here are my calls to action for you. First, I encourage you all to continue learning on Trailhead in the Cultivate Equality at Work trail, and check out the new Inclusive Leadership Practices badge. I also encourage each and every one of you to commit to attending at least one event of an underrepresented group who you may not necessarily identify yourself as. And for extra brownie points, bring a friend along with you. A diversity buddy is helpful for uncomfortable situations. And you both can learn together. That's Marina Sanchez up there, who I spoke about earlier. She's also my diversity buddy. But you all also have an opportunity to meet new diversity buddies right here today. So first, let's start the discussion with any questions for me. Yes, Jose.
How does it feel to be, like, when you look around Salesforce offices, to be one of the only...
Hey, Jose.
Thank you.
So Sol, thank you so much for sharing your story. And what really gravitated to me was when you mentioned you and Marina being the two Latinx communities at Salesforce. How does that make you feel when you're walking down the hallways? And can you maybe express some few tips for someone like myself who also is Latinx? How do I feel more comfortable working at such corporations?
So in the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it's discouraging to walk around the halls and not necessarily see people that look like myself. But what I did is I turned that energy into something positive and really saw where I could make a difference within my company. And so that's really what drove me to bring Marina on, to coach her, to mentor her. And now she's such a huge success. And this is also what drives me to continue giving back to my community and representing underrepresented groups.
Hi, thanks for the session. Do you have any tips for organizations, companies that might be doing a decent job at diversity and inclusion but don't have specific policies set up yet and might be a little resistant to creating policies because they think, oh, we're doing an okay job right now, why do we need to codify this? Do you have any tips about that?
Well, as I showed you on one of my previous slides, the numbers don't lie. people are saying that there's a considerable amount of work to still be done. Now, I may not have the exact tips for you on how to help with this situation, but I'd love to connect with you afterwards and connect you with maybe someone from my equality team who may have some more tips on that.
Hi. So, what would you say is one of the moments where you kind of had like a light bulb go off that really made you want to kind of stand up for the Latinx community? Often being underrepresented is more than enough, but sometimes you have that moment where you really it just kind of clicks. You're like, I need to stand up for this. Did you have one of those moments, and if so, what was that?
Yeah. So when I first started off on one of my teams, there was the mayor of Malaga, Spain, who came to visit our executive briefing center, and he wanted a demo on Trailhead. And it so happened to be that I was one of the only Latinas on the team, so it was up to me to present to him. And that's when I realized how low the numbers of Latinx people were on my team. And this is where I had the light bulb moment of like, okay, I want to make a difference with this.
Any other questions for Sol?
I also have I actually have two of my leaders in the audience, so if you have any questions for them on how they were able to support me, feel free to ask those as well.
It's very easy to support Sol because she is absolutely amazing. There are a number of members of Sol's team who are here actually who have come out to support her. Would you stand, please, if you work directly with Sol? Take a look around at the team members who love Sol. She is our heart and soul of our Trailhead releases. Thank you, Sol. Let's have another round of applause for Sol, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, before Sol goes, as it turns out, Sol's manager is having a very special day today. Yes, that's right, Kiran. That's right. Kiran Jameson. Does everybody know Kiran? Here, on the stage, please. Come to the stage. And let's get some cowbells. What do you say? Up on the stage, please. Up on the stage. Kiran Jameson was a Salesforce MVP. She's the author of the Women Code Heroes blog. She started the RAD Coding School for Women, and now she works on Team Trailhead. She's Sol's amazing manager, and we're going to all wish her a very happy Trailhead DX birthday right now by singing happy birthday to her on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday
to you.
It's my gift.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kiran. Happy birthday to you. Give it up for Kiran. Thank you all for coming to Soul Session. Happy birthday, Kiran. Have a great rest of your day.